Welcome to the Sharpe Club. So happy to have you here this evening, a little bit past 9 p.m. I know I'm a few minutes late, but that happens sometimes. I'm human. I was just on Kennedy, so give me a little bit of a break, guys. A little bit of a break. I know I'm just teasing, but we are here Monday evening, a little bit past 9 p.m., talking about stuff that I think we know is happening and has been happening across this country, and that is a rift or a split between urban versus rural. People often say it's blue state versus red state. But I think most of us know that most states are red and most cities are blue. That's kind of how that works. And so that's really one of our bigger issues, specifically with things that have been happening. And I have an amazing panel for you this evening. I have the one, the only woman who has been part of my campaign in the past. She's an activist and someone who I'm so happy said yes to come this evening. Woman herself, Reks, how are you?
Larry, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Also, and someone who is a journalist, someone who also follows independent parties. I am very happy to have him here. The man himself, Jason. Curtis Anderson, the man himself. Yes.
How's it going, Larry?
Thank you. It's going well. I also got a pinch hitter. Some of you saying, where's Alli? Well, Alli is amazing, but Alli sadly had a plumbing issue she had to deal with. So I called my brother, my fellow Marine, and he stepped in as he always does when I need him. My brother, the man himself, the dragon of the Southern Tier of New York, Michael Voss. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. I always enjoy having conversations with you and all your guests. So this should be very fun.
I hope it is. If it isn't, I'm going to be mad and I'm going to blame Reks. So I'm just going to make sure I do that if things don't go well. That's it. Because she's actually making us look bad. So it's fine. Anyway, I need to. And then you got the jacket on, Mike. Oh, man, look at me in my shirt. Look at you guys all making me look bad. All right, thanks, Jason, for dressing down with the hat. At least that's something. I appreciate it.
I'm trying.
Me up with that one. I appreciate it. So yes,
I'll casual it up for you.
But I do want to bring up. I know we're joking, but a serious issue, and that is recently the death of Jordan Neely on the subway, and the reason why I think it's so important is not because a man died. Men die, and that's a bad thing, and everyone can say that. But there's a cultural issue here that a lot of people don't see from literally the city life, particularly New York City life, compared to outside the city. I think people see that, and if you don't live in a city, I think you see that Marine as a hero. I think you see him as someone who stepped up to defend people, and he's a hero. I think you see him as that. But I think if you live in New York City, you might not see him that way. You might see him as a vigilante, as somebody who's trying to kill people and wants to kill black people, and it's a lynch. I think people feel that. And I think it's much more from where they live versus something else. Am I wrong here?
Well, yes and no.
Right?
In part, first of all, the fact that they were promoting this as a Marine versus a homeless guy.
Yes.
As well, the white-black thing's a little bit separate. We can talk about that in a second because that's really wrong. But because they were focusing on Marine, most people in America look at our military, especially the Marines, and you and I know this.
Yes. By the way, if you don't know, both me and Michael are Marines.
Yeah. And so the image that the public has of us, of service people in general, is we're the good guys. We're elevated.
Right.
And so that instantly adds credibility to whatever action he was taking. But it also, for the left, very often for people on the left, the far left in general, they think the military is evil. And anyone in the military and any action by the military is evil, especially now this is on domestic soil. This is against a homeless guy. And then you add in the white-black thing that they tried to promote. And now he's just the ultimate, he's Darth Vader. So that's why I think the major news media, social media, were focusing on Marine, because that makes him Darth Vader.
Michael, the guys who helped him weren't white, right? There were two guys who helped him.
Black.
They weren't white guys. They forgot about those two.
Yeah, they don't exist because that doesn't go with the message that they're trying to promote out there, which is mostly targeted, and we're talking rural versus urban. It's targeted to that urban, far left culture that tends to be very progressive.
But aren't they trying to, right? Isn't everyone now, and Jason, you cover this, I think, more than anybody. Aren't
Sure.
they trying to get that suburban person to go to their side, right? Isn't that like, don't most people
Yes.
in Democrats go, we got the cities, we're good, and most Republicans, we got
Yeah.
the rural areas, we're good. We got to get the suburbs. That's like the people we got to get. Don't they do that?
Right. So I agree that they need to win that demographic over in order to secure votes or in order to not lose ground. But traditionally, they also do really demonize the sort of rural voter and look down their
Yes.
nose at them in a really unfair and unfortunate way.
Yeah. And so then I guess in the long run, is this just motivating your base and hoping your base comes out? I don't know. Rex, you deal with people every day. Are people talking? Is this a thing or is this not a thing?
Well, I think I'm kind of far removed in my office, but you could feel it. You could just sense it. Twitter is very small. Social media is very small. But when you get out there, you kind of notice these things where it's definitely, I have family in Brooklyn. So when I go down there to Brooklyn, Bushwick, around there.
Sure.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Dox myself. That was smart. Anyway. So it's like, it's a totally different world. I'll walk around and I'll still see people wearing masks outside, walking alone.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different culture down there. But sometimes I'll see maybe somebody driving alone in their car with the mask on, like referencing. Is there something like politically cultural about it? I mean, I think so, because then when it comes to the subway, you got people packed in there like sardines. Everybody's really, really close in. So I think that increases the chances of something occurring, especially with the volatility we see in society today.
Well, you just brought up a good point, right? If I'm wearing my mask outside by myself, that's really a virtue signal, right? That's me showing people that I'm on your team, right? See, I'm wearing the mask. I'm one of you, right? So that's what that is. That's basically wearing an armband, right? Saying, see, I'm one of you, right? But then if I go into the subway, I might pull it off. I might keep it on. But either way, now people go, oh, okay, you're on that team. Like we know what team you're on by you wearing the mask. I think it's a valid point there. Michael, you're not in New York City. So is this happening up there too? Or no?
Not really. I mean, the main impetus for most people who are wearing the mask were they are either followers, they just follow whatever they're told by the elected leaders, or people who are genuinely and absolutely terrified. They heard all the fear mongering. I'm going to die. You're going to die. Regardless of the politics, although that may also multiply it for them. And they're genuinely terrified that they could still die because you keep hearing in the background from Fauci, from Biden, the administration, they keep saying, well, yeah, but this is still deadly. It's still going to kill you, except
I hear from officials here in New York City locally. Locally, I still hear it, not just nationally. Yeah. Like you see it locally still.
But it's not realistic. It's not, it was never as deadly as they wanted to make it out for the fear. But again, it plays into this. And what are they focusing on? They're focusing on the urban, into the cities, where they have the most control on the Democratic side. Because Democrats, more than Republicans or conservatives or libertarians, they were pushing this message of fear and obey. Fear and obey. And so they focused on their major strongholds, the main cities. And that's what they tend to do. So let me
go to that piece, right, if I could.
Yeah.
If you look at what's happening in the cities now, right, generally speaking, since the 2008 crash, there's been very little recovery outside of the cities, right? The cities came back a bit from 2008. There was about 80% of all jobs 2008 came in about 20 U.S. cities. So basically the only recovery after the crash 2008, 2009 was in cities. People flocked to cities, right? The cities all began to grow, except for a couple of them, like Chicago was still collapsing. Detroit was collapsing. But other cities were growing. A lot of Texas cities were growing. Florida cities were growing. New York City was still growing. So a lot of these cities were still growing. But now with the lockdowns, I feel like that's changed because as people move into cities, they tend to become more left, right? That's a tendency. A lot of people from different areas are there. They don't know how to deal with things, different cultures and everything. You get scared. They beg for a referee. The only referee they can think of is cops and government. So they beg for more government. They want it becoming more left. It's a common occurrence. But now, since the lockdowns, people are leaving cities. Are they going to be heading back to the rural areas and to the suburbs? And is the country going to start shifting right? Or is it just still, are they just going to bring the left where they go, right? Which one is going to happen? I don't know.
No, I think we know. I think we can see it. With the examples of California and New York specifically, we have been seeing for the last over a decade now, New York and California lead the country in exodus. People have been leaving in droves to go to mostly Texas and Florida, but they're turning those, Texas and Florida is becoming more purple, not more red, because they're taking their ideologies and they're bringing them with them. But these are ideologies that failed. That's why they're leaving California and New York, because it failed.
But hold on, I got to touch this piece. And that is when they're going to cities, that's true, right? So when they're going from San Francisco to Austin, that's accurate. But when they're going from San Francisco to some suburb of Dallas, that's not true, right? If you look at Florida, most of the New Yorkers going down to Florida are not going to major cities, which is why Florida is turning red, not purple. I think it still goes, even though states are changing. I think the urban piece is still the key. As Austin explodes and Houston explodes, Texas becomes more purple. But the cities, except for maybe Miami, by most times, Miami is much more of a red city. Of all the cities, Miami is probably the reddest of the cities, right? It's the reddest of the cities. So, I mean, I think Florida is getting more red people because it's getting less people in the cities. I don't know. Jason, you've been watching this. Am I wrong here? Tell me.
Yeah, so I could speak pretty accurately to the exodus of New York, especially in the last couple of years. So, excuse me, the pandemic began and the lockdowns happened. And the first wave of people that we began to lose were what I would call medium to high income earners. And sort of successful people with families that were now stuck in their apartments that were very expensive for month 2, month 3, month 4. And these were the people that had enough resources to say, this doesn't work for me. Like my kid can't stay in an apartment all the time. I'm out, right? So either they relocated
$6,000 or $7,000 a month in rent, literally.
Exactly. Yes. So that group was the first group to really leave New York, and either they relocated permanently somewhere, many moved to Florida, and a lot of them just sort of made their second houses their primary residences, right? I've tweeted about this quite a bit. We lost a ton of tax revenue through that because these were such high earners. And
I remember the numbers. It's over 20 billion, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. And it took a while to report on this stuff accurately because you need at least like a year of data to sort of compare apples to apples, right? So, I mean, my best friend lives in the West Village. I used to live in Chelsea. I'd walk through the neighborhood all the time, and it was a ghost town, for the first half of 2020. And then the first wave of people I started to see moving in were college-age kids. Right. And my assessment of this was there's just kids who reach college age and they're going to go to NYU. They're going to move to the city from the suburbs and they're going to do it no matter what. And they didn't care that it was COVID. Right. And so I saw this massive rush of, let's just call it like 21-year-olds in downtown New York City that I've never seen in my 20 years of living downtown. Right. So I saw that swap happen, and fiscally, it doesn't pan out, right? These are not apples to apples. We lost high-income earners and replaced them with college kids who are here to go to school and drink. So that was one really important demographic shift that happened. And another one is we slowly bled out Wall Street jobs to other states. Yeah.
And people don't see that. I tell people this all the time, and they don't listen to me. People don't know that on Wall Street, on actual Wall Street, there's only one bank left. It's only Deutsche Bank. That's it. All the rest of the banks are gone. Only one is left. It was, and the one bank, actually, the stock exchange, threatened to leave and go to Miami when Cuomo was talking about taxing the transaction fees. He's going to tax those. They went, you do that, and New York Stock Exchange will be the Florida Stock Exchange. And he went, Just kidding, my guy. I'm just kidding. I got jokes. Whoa, I got jokes. So yes,
it was a slow bleed, but we lost all of those people since COVID began. And I think the last article written about it was probably in the Times, said that we have less Wall Street jobs in New York City than any time in almost the last 40 years.
Well, something that Jason's bringing up there, and I think it's important in understanding urban versus rural and the impact of all this. You're getting the young kids. Young kids tend to be more democratic, more left-leaning, more progressive,
tend to be more left,
because they don't have a lot of world experience, and that's a very popular view because we're going to save the world, and everyone wants to save the world, especially when they're young. Then as you get older, you either get more cynical or more experienced, depends on your view of that, and you also settle down more. You get your houses, you get your kids, you have a different perspective about your life, and you tend to become more conservative, or at least partially so. And so what we're seeing is the people leaving New York are the people who are families and established, and they have more businesses. So again, you're seeing that's part of that mix. So the people who are going more rural to Texas, to Florida, are people who are established, have a business, have home, have the income,
or retired.
Or retired. And there's your conservative movement. That's why you see Florida being more red.
Yes.
And the ones going to the cities, well, they tend to be just before maybe 30-year-olds or so. And they're going to the cities where they can get the jobs, where they can get the experience, where they can get the family. And that's why you're seeing part of that mix.
Here's the issue. And, this is the issue. And they don't need to go to the city to get that job anymore, right? That's the issue. They can get that job where they live, right? I mean, Reks, in your business, are you seeing people care about that? Do they need to show? Is that a thing? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, especially in my location, I'm only maybe I'll give it a rough estimate, about 2 hours north of the city, right? So most of the people that I know, coworkers, subordinates, higher ups, nobody wants to go and travel to the city. It's too expensive. Vehicle charge, you got gas, wear and tear in your vehicle, tolls, which are going up, I believe, this summer as well. So it's a whole kind of niche, which even if a job is paying a decent rate, you're not going to want to even work in the city at this point in time, even if you only live. I mean, an hour commute travel, especially on public transit, like taking the subway and trying to travel between the city and a little bit upstate, even that is a pain in the neck. And with the situations in the subway as it is with like Neely, who wants to deal with that? It's getting exorbitantly, I think, worse on all ends. Especially BLM had a protest about it. What was it, yesterday or the other day?
Yes.
Yeah. You had it's very interesting.
They shut the subway down yesterday.
Yeah, and you had a guy in a Guevara shirt standing on the third rail.
Yeah. Yes.
I guess that's the type of people we're kind of dealing with here. Certain
Absolutely. And what you're bringing up is what I'm worried about, right? The value of the cities were always jobs. That was the value. I can get talent there. I can get customers there. I can start my business there. That I feel like is going away. And now it's school, which the value of school is starting to go away now. People are saying, why do I need to spend $4,000 bazillion on some degree and then I can't get a job? So even that's going away. Now more people are going to, remote schooling. Even that's beginning to go away. All that's left is culture, which is why I focus on New York City. I think culture is the only answer for New York City. I would say culture is the answer for all cities. If cities don't become centers of culture, they're all going to become Detroit.
Right.
And that's my worry. And if they become Detroit, that's a problem because so many people can be punished. Why? Because who's going to be left in Detroit? That is my issue. It's not going to be a bunch of wealthy people and a bunch of middle-class people and a bunch of working poor. It's going to be all working poor and a couple of landlords. That's all that's going to be left.
Well, you got to remember, we started this process back in 2009. Under the Obama transformation. This is part of the transformation. This is transforming America. They didn't finish. It was ... What were we transforming into? Well, we went from manufacturing, which is a big part of major cities, businesses, creating some kind of good, to service economies, which can be done remotely, which can be done from almost anywhere. It's more service oriented. So this is part of that transition. It was always going to happen. It's just that the lockdown kickstarted everything into overdrive. And so what was happening before is we were trying to adjust. We were getting there, but now we just jumped in both feet. And this is the result. Cities were always going to start falling apart because they've been falling apart. Look at 60 years of Democrats in Chicago. New York City has approximately, I think it's 30 years of Democrats without stop. We can go city by city by city. I believe it's the top 18 of 22 cities in America are at least 2 decades of Democrats, and they've been falling apart.
Bloomberg was a Republican when he ran.
Look
at Jason laughing. Look at Reks laughing. He was a Republican. Come on, Michael. When he was our mayor, Republican, he was.
Yeah. That's the title he wanted to go with, but he was no Republican. It's like saying Trump is a Republican. He's not.
So
you just made my Republican people mad now. Look at you. I like your.
I'm a Republican. It's true.
What's that? I know you are. I love it.
So, Larry, I think there's something important to note on here with the falling apart of cities and stuff like that. Basically, we have to talk about the real estate aspect of New York City because it's so important and it's shifting over time, right? So we locked the cities down, right? We emptied out our office buildings. And basically, as soon as we rolled out the vaccines, the push began to get people back to office, right?
Yes.
And we kept saying, it's going to happen this month. Well, maybe it'll happen next month. Maybe it'll happen next month. Oh, maybe it'll happen after summer, Labor Day weekend, whatever it may be. And we kept kicking the can forwards. Then Eric Adams became mayor, and he did his best. And our
savior wasn't our savior, Jason. What happened?
He was also pushing this message that we need to get workers back into the office, and our office capacity, the usage in New York City has plateaued recently.
Yes,
and the push to get people back into the office is over. No one's saying it anymore. And now all of these same people, our elected officials, the media, everyone is saying, well, now we have to finally pivot to convert those office buildings that we're not going to use anymore into housing.
Not a good idea.
So here's where that gets really tricky.
Yep, I know already. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the average value per square foot of these office buildings in Manhattan is $75 per square foot, right? That's what they're currently worth, baseline number right now.
Yep.
To convert these giant office buildings into apartments, some of those conversions would be more expensive than demolishing the building and starting it from scratch because you have to retrofit the plumbing for all
everything.
For everything.
You got to do windows.
Exactly. Right.
You got to do plumbing.
Right.
You're not going to have people on some floor happy to all share a bathroom with 8 apartments. That's not going to work, right? No one's going to do that. Or people have an apartment with no windows. It's not going to work.
So they call this field adaptive reuse, right? So adaptive reuse was feasible. It is feasible in certain buildings.
Sure.
I'm going to give you some examples. It worked better in the financial district, which was like really early on converting office buildings into residential buildings because the floor plates of the buildings were very strange. A lot of them were triangle shaped and had these thinner areas. So the numbers penciled out. It didn't require them building giant grids of plumbing work to convert buildings. It made more sense.
And they actually could call it FIDI, which sounds cool. So now people want to go there and say, I live in FIDI because I'm super cool.
Exactly.
I live in FIDI. True.
So when it comes to the Manhattan large block office buildings, though, you have to think about it like this. If someone owns one of those buildings and they want to convert it, right? First of all, they have to pitch a bank on the project to take out the loan, right?
Well, hold on. I want to touch what you're talking about in a more succinct way, if I could. The worst problem here is the banks, because at one point, I'm not going to pay my mortgage.
Yep.
I don't care how wealthy I am. At one point, I'm going to say, I'm not paying my mortgage. I'm not going to pay it because I can't fill my coffers because I can't collect rents. So I'm not paying. And when I don't pay, the banks go, but you have to pay. And I go, I'm not paying. And neither of my other friends who also aren't going to pay either. And the bank goes, oh my God, we're going to go under. Yeah, you are. Yeah. That's the old saying, right? What was it, Trump or whoever said it? If you owe the bank $1 million, you're in trouble. If you owe them $100 million, bank's in trouble, or whatever that was, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the number was.
The banks in New York City are currently preparing for giant defaults on commercial real estate right now. The major publications have already written about it in the last 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
But the problem isn't the, if I may, the problem isn't the commercial space. It's the crime. It's the crime. The crime is the problem.
Why is crime the problem?
The reason why crime is New York cities like New York City, LA, high profile locations across the country can fill the spaces without having to go purely residential because they have the name and the draw. It's like having, if you're in a financial business, why does, even though most of the banks have moved out of New York City, even the stock brokerage firms move out, they still keep a space so they can say Wall Street, because there is a value to say Wall Street. It's very important to say that you have an office in New York City, a headquarters or an office in New York City has value. There is an inherent value in some of these cities, more so LA, New York, the big ones, but it's there. It's the crime that's driving out the businesses. Do you want to put your business in San Francisco where you're going to, where like Walmart, like CVS, okay, they're going to steal $1,000 of goods every day, 2 or 3 times a day, and I can't have that business.
I got to touch this. Depends on the city. San Francisco is a joke. I've been there, and literally, you go in when I actually get paid, when I actually do work and get paid, I consult with 3 different groups: law firms, financial firms, and tech firms. So I've been to San Fran. I've been there, and you go to a big bank, and you're right outside of it is blue tents with people who are homeless, shooting up, vomiting, taking a crap. It's true. That's not true in New York City. You go to Park Avenue, New York City, the cops are on every corner, making sure there's not one, except in front of the church, the St. Bartholomew's Church. They leave the church. If you're in front of the church and you're homeless, they don't mess with you in front of the church. They leave you alone. With the exception of the church, the cops keep that clean. They are
until
there.
You get to the subway. Until you get to the subway, or you go into some of the other areas of the city. And that's the problem. See, and this is true of all the major cities. They have their centers, that they're high profile areas that are well regulated by law enforcement. And then there's everywhere else. And to have your business, you're not going to move down to Fifth Avenue and open up a mom and pop shop. You're not. You're going to do it on one of the fringes. You're going to go to Brooklyn. You're going to go to Staten Island, the Bronx, and you're going to try and build there. But the crime is too high. And then if you have states or areas that have really high profile wokest ideology where, oh yeah, social justice, you can rob me up to $1,000 and we won't say a word. Well, now here comes extra crime on top of the normal crime.
But hold on, these are 2 separate pieces though, right? You were talking about someone having enough value to have a New York City address. For that, we got that covered, right? That part's good. But what you're talking about is people, which I actually feel even the most sorry for. Because if you have a store in the Bronx, if you have a store in Brooklyn, and your store is getting robbed, you can't afford to move. You're trapped. You've got to stay there. You can't afford to get out. You can't even afford private security. You got to hope you got enough family members who will show up there and stare down and scare some people and maybe go to jail, because in New York City, you can't defend yourself or your property in New York City. It's against the law to defend yourself or your property. You got to hope that one of them's okay going to jail to put a bullet in somebody or to stab somebody to keep your store. So I'm agreeing with you on how bad it is, but that's really affecting the people who are working poor, middle class, the entrepreneur in the local area. But the rich people, they're good. They put their flag someplace and then they live in whatever, Jersey or something.
Good, Jason.
I could talk about retail crime a little bit. So obviously, something that Michael touched on is the theft that happens right at, let's just call them the large chain retail stores,
Yep.
right? So this is the CVS's, the Duane Reads, and places like that, Walgreens, that are going out of business, closing doors in New York City and cities all over the country.
Yep.
So
I see it here in Astoria, Queens. I saw
Yeah.
one close just a couple weeks ago. Yep.
Exactly. So that specific crime market is mostly driven by homelessness and drug addiction. I'll get into the other
Wait a
ones
minute.
after
Hold
this.
on. No. I can't buy
Oh.
that one, Jason. Those
Oh,
guys,
no,
I
no.
see them. They go into CVS, steal a bunch of shit. Then they're on the
Yeah.
subway 2 blocks away selling it on the corner.
Right.
Come on,
So-
that's a business model. That's not people who are homeless. That's a business model. They're like, this is cheap goods for me to sell. So they just
Drugs
go
and
there and
gangs.
sell it in the
So-
corner.
Drugs and
Rex,
gangs.
you're in security, Rex. You got to see this. I mean, am I wrong here?
Yeah, I've seen it quite a bit, and
Yeah.
it's getting worse as time goes on, especially in retail security. It's not where anybody kind of wants to work security at this point. Like the people that I speak to, coworkers, the kind of security guards on the ground, because they don't get paid enough, and they also security officers don't have qualified immunity. We're not cops. So if we get into some stuff, it's observe and report, and then people try to blame security guards. Why didn't you do something? Because it's observe and report. We're not trying to lose our jobs, but to some extent, it's like everybody else in that store. What the government is promoting, or New York City, Hochul, and Adams, what they're promoting is do nothing. Like the whole community. There is no community, and then these stores have insurance policies, but eventually those insurance companies, they're not going to want to cover all this crime and all that loss, all that shrinkage. So it's like it's going to be a lose-lose, where these stores are like, we're just going to close up because we're not in the business to lose money. We're here to make money and provide a service, provide a product.
And
now,
that's
the question now becomes, if I was spending my time robbing the local Walgreens, and now some local Walgreens says, I'm tired of getting robbed, I'm shutting down. So now my community just lost the Walgreens. So now my community is worse. So now my property value went down. I don't have that. So what am I going to do? Do I just start robbing people next to me? Or worse, do I go to the community next door and go to that community and rob their Walgreens until that one goes down?
They keep going to business to business to business, and then they rob each other. The poor get poorer, and more crime increases and increases, and people start evacuating. This is amplifying the exodus out. That's one of your big differences. You won't have that happen rurally. That's an urban problem that can only happen in urban areas, and this is because the focus, I believe, because the focus is now saying, well, we need more immigrants and we need more illegal aliens. Let's be honest, they're criminals, and we need to have more housing, and that'll fix the problem. No, you're just accelerating the problem because more people, less work, more crime, more drugs, more gangs. It keeps moving this down the hill, picking up steam like a snowball, and it just gets worse and worse. They're looking at the wrong end of the problem. Deal with the crime first. And then bring back the business, go back to manufacturing, and you will improve the cities. That's my idea.
Larry, I'd like to unpack this a little bit more.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was about to agree with you about people stealing things and selling them down the street, because I lived on 14th Street, and just on the east side of Union Square is what I call the Thieves Market, right? And
Thieves Market. I love that.
It's the east side Thieves Market. And this is where, like I was saying, because we were both right, actually, this is where homeless people who are addicted to drugs go to Walgreens, go to CVS, steal small things, and then resell them so they can buy drugs, right?
Oh, so we are both right. You're right, Jason.
We are
both right.
Exactly. So, when you're homeless, not working, addicted to fentanyl, that fentanyl addiction is your number one priority, right? It's how do I get $20 so I can get a bag of fentanyl and do it every 2 hours until I go to sleep tonight. So if you don't have a job, your only options are to steal from small stores like that don't really care, and you'll sort of get away with it and resell the product, to panhandle, Yeah, that's really it. It's
I get you.
panhandling
Okay. I'm
at
sold.
yeah, at major
I'm
subway
sold.
stations and business corridors, and to steal from those smaller businesses. What you were talking about with the sort of people going into store, taking a bunch of things and running out is very much a national issue.
Yes, that's
Um,
true.
but there's different groups of people that do this sort of stuff, right? So in New York City, we have a lot of smash and grab crime as well.
Yep.
We've been seeing, I mean, obviously we saw Soho get looted, and
Yep.
when they finally wrote a story about it, there was an organized crime organization that wasn't even from New York City that participated in it. So I
Oh,
was
I didn't
really,
even know that. Is that true?
yeah, there was one. Yeah, I think it was from New
That's new
Jersey
for me.
or from
Okay.
or from further south. Some of the retail smash and grab stuff and robbing stores in Soho is also from people that are from out of state. There's a definite movement all around the country where people think it's okay to drive to New York City and rob a high-end retail store.
Now, why are you making Michael right? Don't make me agree with Michael.
Well,
don't make me agree with Mike. I don't agree with him. Don't
there's
say that.
wait, there's different we're gonna get into some local stuff too. So then there's the weed store robberies, right?
Oh yes.
Right.
And obviously there's I forgot how many weed shops have popped up since COVID. I think it's 1,400 smoke shops popped up around the city.
It's not because of COVID. It's because, it's legal now. Let's
Right.
legalize it.
So here's a really interesting angle with the weed shop robberies. It's really young New Yorkers, actually. They're saying that the average person robbing a weed shop in New York City, whatever the neighborhood is an 18-year-old kid here.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Wow.
So there's a lot of different types of retail theft and smash and grab, and it's almost like the problems that are facing CVS and the Chanel store and the weed shops are completely different from each other.
So let me take a couple seconds now to do a little bit of admin if I could, guys. If you are watching this show and you like what you hear, which is why you're watching it, click the like button. Do it now. Click the like button right now. I need to get past Mr. Algorithm. Mr. Algorithm always bothers me. He shuts me down. I don't like him. Al is not a good guy. How do we get past Mr. Algorithm? You click that like button. It does matter tremendously. If you are watching on Twitter, retweet this right now. Let people know this is happening. Retweet it right this moment. If you're on YouTube and you want to get your comment to the front, you can super chat me if you want to on Larry Sharpe YouTube. If you want to support the show itself, you may head over to patreon.com/Sharpeway. Throw me $10 a month so we can keep doing this all the time. So I'm not going to spend so much time working, and I could spend more time doing this. I spent enough time doing this already. With 3 times a day, I'm insane. Anyway, but more importantly, 3 people today decided to give us a little bit of time, a little bit of love. So support them in return. Follow them on Twitter. You can follow Jason at JC Anderson NYC on Twitter. Also, some of his other information is in the description in Facebook and YouTube. Also, Reks at Logic Reks on Twitter. Please follow her if you can. And of course, sadly not in the description, but he's in all my descriptions. You can still find Michael. Please follow him on Twitter at MV Consult. Please show them some love. They're showing you some love by being here. Please show them a little bit of love. Reks, you were getting ready to say something, and then all of a sudden you didn't. What's going on? What were you thinking about?
Yeah. Oh no, I just don't want to interrupt. I just let everybody get their time. But yeah, it's like Voss brought something to my mind because I think immigration also plays into it to a certain extent.
Okay.
Recently, Mayor Adams went without permission, is busing hundreds of immigrants up to a town upstate and putting them in a hotel without the permission or without even asking the county executive. So it's like when crime plays into immigration in New York City to the rural area, will we see a shift there in crime as well? Excuse me. Also, I think there's something to say about the generations. Like with community, kind of tight-knit community, if I went down to the local store and tried to steal something, they probably grabbed me by my little neck, bring me back to my mother. My mother would have taught me something, don't steal. But then I think this culture has shifted. Arguably, I'm trying to see if I can tie in if it's possible to tie in Hochul and the kind of culture, like culture is downstream from politics type of argument, where Hochul and Mayor Adams are kind of perpetuating this thing of, with Alvin Bragg, how the crimes are not prosecuted and nobody's going to jail, or they do go to jail, they get out, released ROR the same day on some pretty serious crimes. I think, possession of a firearm.
I'll touch a couple of these things if I could. I think what you're talking about actually started a whole lot longer ago. I think it actually started back in the 60s. And I go back that far because back that far is when the government said, don't worry, community, I got you. That is when the government said, don't worry, community, I got you.
Right.
And as soon as that started to happen, I think over time we've watched communities collapse. You add the war on poverty, the war on drugs, you add all of these things to where, don't worry, I got you. And the part that really shocked me, it's because the Marine in me. It was after 9/11. When 9/11 happened, I mean, I was out of the Marine Corps already. I'd been out of the Marine Corps for like 7 years. I was ready to call 1-800-MARINE and go back in after 9/11. I was one of those gung-ho guys. I was ready. Mike Shakespeare said he was thinking the same thing I was thinking. We were thinking, thinking the same thing. I'm ready to call a recruiter up. We're going back in. We were both thinking the same thing. And then Bush said, just go shop. We got you. Just go shop.
Right.
He didn't say, get together, let's do something. But he said, go shop. I got you. And when that happened, I began to think, is this the way it's been? And I feel like this has been slowly happening over like 40 years. And right now, the government is seen as some invisible thing that always has money, doesn't matter. So I can just take money from the government. It's just, it's magic money. It doesn't matter. And now that translates over to big business. I don't care. Walgreens got money. I could just take it. It's okay. If it's big and non-personal, it becomes okay to do it. It just becomes okay. Am I wrong here, Reks? You think I'm wrong?
Actually, I think in a sense it does. I mean, there's that great quote where if you tell a lie enough, it becomes a truth. Ironically, I believe that was from Goebbels. He was a Nazi.
Goebbels.
And I think, Goebbels. So when I think about Hochul and the style of governments, I regulate to like a nanny state. She is taking over. She wants to be the mommy and the daddy and the queen and the god all in one person. I even like when it first hit me and the type of person she is when she was giving that speech. And she referenced her telling everybody to go out and be her apostles.
I remember that.
That's where I thought she wasn't going to win. I can't believe she won after that.
Yes, I remember that. And, I'll go to the next piece, though, which is you brought up the idea of Alvin Bragg. And I think you're right that once they started saying it was okay to do bad and go back out, that was a big deal because for most who don't know this, there's actually a very small number of criminals in New York City who do all the crime. I'm not joking. It's like 10,000 people or something. I forgot the number. But it's not like 100,000. It's like 10,000 people who keep doing the crimes. And if we keep sending them out, they go, why bother? I think that matters. But I actually don't blame Hochul and them as much. You know who I actually blame? I blame judges. I do.
Yes.
I really do. Right. And people get mad at me when I say it, but I do. Look, Mike's ready to yell at me. I'm telling you, and let me tell you why. Before you yell at me, Michael, let me tell you why before you yell at me. All right. Here's why I think so. Reks, you're muted if you want to say something. You're muted.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to say absolutely right. I can't. Go ahead.
Yes.
I can't stand the judges.
My point is, all right, I'll give you an example. And I've asked this question before. Think about this for a moment. What if the knuckleheads in Albany passed the law and the law said if you were convicted of graffiti and you are 16 or 17 years old, if you're convicted, then the penalty is mandatory death. That is what they passed that law. That is a law passed by legislature that if that happens, it happens. So now you're a judge and you're in a criminal case. The jury comes back guilty. It's a 16-year-old kid. By law, you must execute him. You must pass a judgment of execution. What do? Any judge that goes, well, I have to follow the law, execute the kid, is a horrible human being. That's Nazi stuff. The Nazis said they were following the laws. No, you are a horrible human being. If you would execute that kid, you are a bad person. The reality of judges are they're not supposed to follow the law. The executive branch is supposed to follow the law. They're supposed to match the law against the Constitution. And if it's wrong, check it. That's their job. Their job is to check the chimps that are running around with pencils in their mouth in Albany. They're supposed to check those chimps. They don't. So what should have happened is this. Here comes the guy in front of me. I'm Judge Sharpe. And the law says, I got to let this guy out. Okay, he's a 3-time convict, hurts people. The reason why we arrested him is he didn't show up to his last one. He didn't show up to the last one. No, you're staying in. What would have happened? And this is what I said like a fool. I'm so disappointed in myself for this. This was my call. Those of you who are following me, I said, don't worry about bail reform. The judges won't do this. They will actually stop it. It will then go into the appellate courts and it'll be fixed with rulings. That was my call. Those of you who follow me, that's what I said. Holy crap, was I wrong? These judges just went, nope, back out you go. They should have said, no, you are going to jail. I'll see you at the appellate court. And they didn't do it.
Larry, I love you.
Okay, yell at me, Michael. Go ahead, yell at me.
I love you, but you're wrong.
Okay,
and well, let me reword that. I disagree. I disagree to the extent that we're talking about several things here, but mostly what we're talking about is a trend in politics.
Okay.
So we're looking at judges are. I disagree with your ruling on at the appellate level, at the Supreme Court. They're there to see constitutionality, that the laws are correct. On the circuit level, where you go in front of a judge, they're not looking for constitutionality. They're looking at more like the Eighth Amendment. Is this the proper punishment under the structure of law for the crime that was committed? Did you get properly prosecuted? Were you properly found guilty? And does the crime, the level of punishment equal the crime within the structure of the law? We're making bad laws. And you used a very extreme example, but that's no. But let's go with. But let's look. Here's the real problem: prosecutors aren't prosecuting. They're not following the law. Before it ever gets to the judge, the fact is they are waving away the crime. Reks is correct. You're getting arrested and you get to walk out the door. They remove many of the crimes. You committed arson. You committed looting. You committed rioting in the second degree. Oh, yeah, well, none of those crimes matter anymore. They're wiped out because you're the right skin tone. You have the right political backing. You are arguing about something that's politically beneficial to certain politicians, so it doesn't exist anymore. This is Alvin Bragg. This is what we've seen in Rochester.
These 10,000 people who have been looting and breaking stuff, and they're not BLM members. They're people who have problems.
No, it doesn't matter whether they're BLM members or not. They're the right color. They're the right income category, and they are they're a tool. They're being used.
Well, that's true. 100%.
They are useful tools to say,
100%.
oh my God, you know what? They wouldn't be stealing anything if it weren't for, we need more social justice. We need to give them more free stuff. We need them to be part of the system and beholden. Reks was correct. They need to be nanny stated. We have to give them stuff, free housing, more money, more food. We have to give them stuff and forgive everything they do wrong. That never hits the judge. That's because of the laws.
Jason, you got to help me. It's Reks and Michael against me. You got to help me out with this one.
So when the district attorney race was happening, I was very vocal about that I did not want Alvin Bragg to get this job. He released a day one memo that basically promised that he was going to prosecute less crime in a time that we were just recovering from riots, a crashed economy, and New York's fate was really up in the air. This was a really, really hard time. And he won the race, and he's been doing exactly what he promised to do.
This is true. He has been. Yeah. He's been honest in that regard. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
In that regard, he's been honest.
So the dismissal rate under Alvin Bragg's leadership is at a historic high. Dismissing cases left and right. We've got the discovery laws make it harder for prosecutors to do their job.
Nope. You're not going to get away on that one. Discovery law reform was a damn good idea.
Well,
No.
what they're saying is
Yes,
that
it was. You know what was happening? Look, for you guys, I literally consult on criminal justice cases. I literally am on the defense. And this is what would happen. They would keep all of discovery. I'm not making this up. For 6 months, they keep it. They do an entire case based on all discovery, then give it to the defense 3 days before, 2 days before. That was the norm. No other state was as bad as New York. Texas, the hanging state, was better.
Well,
at least the hanging state would say, we're going to give you a chance before we hang you guys. I mean, we're still hanging them, but at least we're going to give them a fair trial before we hang them. I mean, it was that. New York, we didn't give you a fair trial. How are you going to mount a defense when you get all the stuff 2 days? I'm not joking. 2 days before when they had 6 months. Come on, this was good stuff.
No, here I don't think you understood what I was saying though, because even Alvin Bragg is saying that the changes that they made to discovery have led to problems. He wants it changed because he says that people just aren't able to do their job effectively at this moment. So I was surprised to hear that from him as well.
Yeah, I don't think that's
considering
true.
he's went on the record within the last 2-3 weeks and said it.
Now I'm not even more mad at him. The one good thing he had, he's screwing up. The one good thing he had, that was of all the barrel from garbage, that was the one good one. And he blew that one. That was the one good one.
I mean, in the last couple of weeks, he's also asked to be able to make more crimes bail eligible, which is something that we never thought in a million years that he'd say out loud, but he's on the record. Yeah. I'll send these things to you.
You know what's the problem with all this?
Go ahead.
They are creating the problem because fear equals control. It's the policies, and let's call them what they are. These are progressive policies. These aren't libertarian policies. These aren't conservative or Republican. These are progressive. They're not even democratic policies. These are progressive ideas where you're defunding the police. Why did it take 15 minutes to get into the subway? Because there aren't enough police officers. We cut down their numbers. They can't arrive in time. Why is that? Why was Jordan Neely not just homeless? Why was he a violent criminal arrested 42 times? Because they kept revolving the door and letting him back out. He wasn't put into prison because they kept wiping out the charges. He had an active violent felony warrant for his arrest. He walked on there as a violent individual. We're getting more and more of this news. He had been repeatedly on that stop, on that train, many weeks beforehand, and on that day, threatening people and several times acting on that violence even when he wasn't arrested. This is a direct consequence of bad laws and bad execution by prosecutors. They cut the funding for the mental health. They cut the funding for homelessness. And I am an advocate for the homeless. And they're spending the money instead on illegal aliens, spending $60,000 per illegal alien to put them into 3-star hotels, which is only inviting more illegal aliens into those hotels. And that's double the average income of everyone in America and about the amount that you need.
I'm agreeing with you too much, Michael. We got to change the subject. I don't like this no more. I don't like this no more. We got to change the subject. I don't like this no more.
Did you guys know that the migrants are staying in an abandoned skyscraper in Times Square right now?
Yes.
That I hadn't heard about yet. No.
I wasn't aware of that, yes.
There's so many, and you have to think about it at scale, right? Because there's so many of them that they don't fit in most hotels or smaller buildings. So you have to put them in a giant non-residential skyscraper. It's completely insane.
But this is my point that I bring up when I spoke about this the other day, about the idea of the homeless problem. We have to get government out of this. Because this is literally a homeless industrial complex. I'm not joking. And the migrant industrial complex and the homeless industrial complex are hand in hand because they're basically the same thing. If you're a migrant who comes without a home, you've become homeless. So now I've got to hire people to find these hotels. I got to find these people who drive them upstate. I got to make sure I'm giving vouchers out to all the hotels who can't get tourists, but boy, they can get migrants and double their fees. And who cares? It's government money. I know it's usually $20 a night. Now it's $400 a night. Who cares? Yes, that's again and again and again. It's insane. It's a massive industrial complex. And it goes back to the same idea. What happened to communities?
Well, they're destroying them.
Yes.
They're destroying them. Now look at what's the next step. This is all about fear and control. Because, okay, we have too many migrants. We have too many homeless. we're going to ship them to upstate New York, where no one asked for them, where no one wanted them. New York City said, we're a sanctuary city. We want more illegal aliens. Fantastic. Texas sent them the people they asked for, the people that they wanted. And then they turned around and said, no, we're like Martha's Vineyard. We want more migrants in your place, not mine. We want them in your house, not next to my beachfront property or next to my skyscraper. And they're sending them to upstate where we don't want them. And what's going with them? Crime and all of the problems from the infrastructure that we don't have and we cannot afford. Because
I'm actually not as concerned about the crime aspect before with you. I'm more affected with the crime that comes from the breakdown of infrastructure. Like, I don't think that the individual people who are going up there are criminals. I think they're going up there, the infrastructure breaks down, they find themselves being desperate, they start doing desperate things, they become criminals, right? But if we had a better system for them, which we don't have at all, which again should not be government-based, if we had actually a better system, they'd be supported and they wouldn't turn to desperate actions and they wouldn't become criminals. And I think you see that. Go back to Ellis Island days. They were pouring in, but when they were pouring in, don't get me wrong, they were being exploited also. They're still being exploited. Immigrants will always be exploited. I wish that wasn't true, but they're always going to be exploited. Yeah. But at least then they were being exploited by their own people who were happy to have them in, giving them jobs and working, and eventually they were growing out of it. It was getting better for most immigrants who were coming to America. I'm not sure that's as true now.
I have a few friends who are working in this space, right? And, work in the mayor's office and stuff like that, and have been dealing with the migrant crisis. So, first of all, it is a all hands on deck emergency.
Sure.
And it takes so much coordination to receive that many people every day and to find immediate places for them to stay and get them the things that they need. Basically, it's taking all of the time and energy away from Mayor Adams' office of all of the things that he really wants to do. This is an enormous time suck because I'll give you a perfect example. Let's just say that you have, the last number we had, I think was like 62,000 migrants, right? So let's say over the course of the last 6 weeks, it grew from, 5,800 to 62 or whatever it may be. And he was sort of at capacity for the situations that he had set up, that his hotels were full, his HERC centers were full, yada, yada. But now we have 500 show up today and then 500 show up tomorrow.
Now what do you do?
500 show up the next day. So now we have to make a plan for the new ones. Now here's where it gets double crazy, is that when you're trying to make the plan for the new 2,000 migrants and you spend 10 days doing it, they become 4,000. Right. So now your plan that worked on Wednesday is no longer applicable by Sunday because it's growing that fast. So that's also why it's such a time suck, is it's a real all hands on deck emergency with this thing. And I also spoke with a immigration expert about this from Manhattan Institute, and he brought something up to me that I found really interesting. Is he told me, he said, Jason, he goes, no one's really thinking about this. He goes, but you really want to set those people up to win. He goes, it's a lot of young men from South America that are coming here with nothing but the T-shirt on their back. He goes, and if we put them in the South Bronx, if we put them in our poorest neighborhoods in New York City with nothing to do and no resources, they're going to join gangs. He goes, and we're going to, it's going to.
Yes, but I have a big but here. I have a big but here, and that is, so will American kids. Like, we're spending all this money on the immigrant, which I'm not against people spending money on immigrants. I'm against the government spending all this money on immigrants. If the government's going to spend tax dollars on anybody, clearly I don't want to spend much money at all, but if it's going to, spend it on Americans. Right? If you're going to spend that money, young Americans who are sitting home doing nothing will also join gangs. So if the American government is going to spend money, spend it on Americans or don't spend it. I'm not okay with this. There are enough, and here's my biggest issue with this. And Jason, you know this, and Michael, you too. I know you do. Reks, I'm not sure how you know about the farms and the hospitality industry. New York State, these guys are dropping big dollars on illegal recruiters, bringing in workers for their farms, for their hotels, for the whatever. They're spending big dollars on that. as they should. They want the worker, pay for the worker, bring the worker in, do the job, and send them home. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. They want the worker, they're going to pay for it. Why are we paying for this when our own citizens are being devastated? I don't mean to be all uppity, but I get what he's saying. I do. I understand the logic, but how about us?
Right.
Yes, but I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Let Reks talk. Go ahead. Say something, Reks.
I was going to say Reks. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna try to tie something else in. The Jose Alvarez case, where we had he was Dominican, elderly, and then he got attacked in his shop. He's also an immigrant, but he actually made something for himself, and then he gave the whole business and sent to Rikers Island simply for defending himself. I mean, he did, stab gentlemen, but it was, I would argue, it was self-defense. And in the same context, everybody's watching that and trying to tie it into the crime. It was reported by residents on the street. I think for some reason, they were calling a company referencing that residents were getting attacked by the immigrants living on the street.
Oh,
and it was a whole thing. I can't remember where, but that's also tying into the culture where they're being bussed here and they are attacking the residents that live. They're saying that trying to get resources, trying to beg for money, the same thing, tying into the homeless complex. Everything seems to be tying into it, and I'll reference the fear of control, because I mean, fear is the greatest thing that they have. So if you're a
100%.
resident here, you can't defend yourself. What are you going to do? You're going to capitulate until you decide to move and have enough of it.
And there's a thing that I think is a bigger problem. If you look at this, goes kind of to the next level, which is, believe it or not, guns. You look at the violence that's happening in Texas now, right? A lot of it is literally anti-immigrant violence. A lot of it is. And I'm not going to go with the white supremacy thing. I'm not doing it, Michael. You get mad if I say that. I know you're going to yell at me. Don't yell at me. I'm not saying that. But I am saying a lot of it is, I remember that guy who ran those people over, right?
On
He
Sunday?
ran over those migrants. Remember that guy with the car?
The Spanish guy?
Yes.
The Spanish guy on Sunday who, okay.
Yes. I mean, I think you're having a lot of that kind of stuff happen all over the place. You're finding that if you don't have a system that supports migrants, you are by default going to have more violence. And if you have more violence, government doesn't go, let's fix the problem. Government says, let's provide more programs. Let's spend more money. They don't actually fix the problem. In other words, to your point, Reks, that guy Alvarez stabbed the guy who came at him. I don't care what anybody says. That was absolutely self-defense. He was physically hitting him. The guy was physically bigger, physically younger, and was physically punching him. If that guy got killed, too bad. I don't want a guy to die, but too bad. You shouldn't be beating up people. So he did it. So my point is, they didn't then try to fix it. They just went, oh, that was on video, so we got to let this guy out. If that wasn't on video, Alvarez is in jail for the rest of his life. But that happened to be on video. So they never solved the problem. They said, well, we'll let this go. The guy's getting killed in Texas. Not solving any problems. The guys going up to upstate, they're not solving any problems. The answer is more money, more money, more money.
I think it's also important to note that Alvin Bragg only did the right thing after he got shamed into doing the right thing.
Correct.
By the New York Post.
Yeah. And I did want to tie in one thing to the Jose Alvarez. That whole situation evolved from his girlfriend, wife, who didn't have enough money on her EBT card, right?
Yes.
So that ties into a whole social program that failed her, evolving into that whole situation because the government failed, I guess, the family or the girlfriend.
She started assaulting him first.
Correct.
Yeah.
Give me my free stuff. I can't get free stuff. Go take it. Okay. I've been,
and I'll stab you if you don't give it to me, damn it.
Exactly.
I want my free stuff. I'm going to stab you.
Exactly. And I'm not supposed to defend myself or have a bulletproof vest in New York State, which, is personal passive self-defense, because somehow that's just violent. Okay. You're driving me nuts, guys. I've been biting my tongue. I'm biting my fingers here. Let me go with, let's look at Texas. First of all, They're not migrants. They're illegal aliens. It's a legal term. It is correct. They didn't get permission to come here. They don't have documentation to be here. They don't belong here. We didn't invite them. They are illegal. They are aliens. They are criminals.
All right.
And I have no problem saying that.
Michael, I got to go here. Hold on. You went there. So I got to go.
Yeah, I went there.
Not all of them are illegal. Our stupid laws are still the same from back in the Cold War, which say you do have a right to come here and claim asylum. So not all of them are illegal. That's a different thing.
That's a different thing.
Some of them have claimed asylum. I don't know which ones have, but some have. Because
it is
our stupid
minor
laws.
proportion.
In that case, we have invited them. We should have
no,
a long time ago.
No, we don't invite refugees. We help refugees and we save refugees. And I have no problem with refugees when they go through the process, which includes 2 years of vetting, which we're not doing. So that's another problem. But we're talking about the overwhelming majority, because refugees make up about 15% of the people who are trying to come into America, actually even less than that. We're talking about 2.4 million people last year, including 98 terrorists or individuals we believed were known terrorists. Last year, 2022, there were 98 individuals who were known and or suspected terrorists that came into America. At least 6 to 8 of them came in, and we verified that they were looking to commit assassinations of elected officials in the United States. That's a fact. That's the ones we caught. So I have a problem right there. I don't want them in our country. Yes, there will always be illegal immigrants. But what we're doing right now is an open door policy that doesn't help anyone. Yes, there is crime. Hold on
1 second. Jason, I need you to put a light on yourself, brother. You're too dark.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Keep going, Michael. Sorry. Keep going.
So the biggest problem for illegal aliens is like the biggest problem for black people in America. It is black on black crime. It is illegal alien on illegal alien crime. They're afraid to call in because they're afraid they're going to be deported. This is one of the reasons why Francisco Oropeza was able to, first of all, gun control didn't work. He got a firearm.
What?
He's
gun
illegal.
Control doesn't work? No way.
Exactly. I've always said that. You know that. He's been deported 4 times, comes back the 5th time, gets an illegal weapon because gun control doesn't work, and then he kills a family because he's a nut job and a 9-year-old child. We should be screaming at the top of our lungs about this, but we're not for some reason because it doesn't fit the profile. And he got away with that, and he was able to run around for a while until his wife opened up the closet, and there he was. How did no one do that in the first day? Open up the closet, look through the house. I don't know. Is because he's an illegal alien preying on other illegal aliens and their fear. This is all going back to the original problem.
Touch everything you just brought up here, if I could.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot there.
There is.
Yeah.
However, I'll say we actually do invite them here. Now, not me or you, but the businesses absolutely want them. Like there's no tomorrow. They are begging for them. They want them in hospitality. They want them in farms. They want them in all. They do want them. What I'm saying is, and they're literally paying for it. There's guys in upstate New York, and you know this, Michael. There's guys who literally, you go to them and you say, all right, I need 6 guys. One's got to speak English. That's it. The guy goes, I got you. Okay, how much? You're gonna, and okay, the guy who speaks English, that guy's $14 an hour. The other guys are $12 an hour. I'll get them out there to you. They'll work 10, 12 hours. You got Social Security numbers? Yeah, we got those. Don't worry about it. Yeah, but the new New York State law, they can't work overtime. No, each one will have 2 Social Security numbers. Okay, got it. That's going to cost you $16 an hour. That happens right now in New York State. And those who are shocked at this, yes, they have 2 bogus or 2 legal Social Security numbers so they can work overtime, because New York State tried to say, we're going to help our migrant workers. They can't work overtime. So they want to work overtime. They just have 2 Social Security numbers now. That's happening across New York State. I'm assuming across other states too.
Yes.
I don't know that, but I assume it is.
Yes.
So my point is, we are inviting them. My issue is there is no simple, easy, fair way to vet them and get them here. But somehow across the world, companies like Microsoft and companies like Oracle and companies like SAP can somehow vet thousands of people, move them all across the world, and have almost none of them commit crimes. How the hell does that work?
It's called an H-1B visa. They're looking for skilled labor. You're talking about skilled labor versus unskilled labor. And we're not talking about the illegal immigrants coming from Venezuela or from Honduras or Guatemala, they are overwhelmingly not going to Microsoft or onto the assembly line of the GM's auto
me
plants.
that picking apples is not skilled labor?
No,
if you're telling me that, my friend, you have never picked apples. I'm
not saying that you can't do it better, but no, it's not. I would not compare that to putting together a circuit board or, and again, my mind's going in auto industry
what I'm
and
telling
computers.
You is it is also a skilled labor is all I'm telling you. The field work is it's a different type of skill, but it is also skilled labor.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There is a skill to it. Fair enough. Go ahead, Reks.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
I figured I'd toss another log on the fire. This happened a while ago, because if we think about the American citizen versus the immigrant, when you have politicians like AOC, she said a few years back, you should be able to get paid even if you just don't want to work. You should be able to get paid. So we have that psychology or that dichotomy. I guess another aspect of the nanny state where they're literally saying, hey, if you don't want to work, it's okay. We'll just, have every other taxpayer pay for your life and your Xbox and your iPhone that you apparently kind of rail against as a socialist. So it's kind of an interesting segue, or there's so many moving parts to it.
There are, but
if I have half my American population not working because they want to have someone else pay for their Xbox, right? That's half. Then I got half who are working. Then I got to bring in migrant workers. What kind of world is that?
That's the problem. See, that's my point. I don't mind that there's always going to be some illegal aliens. There are for every country in the world. I got no problem with that. To a degree, it's that we have been opening up the door because we're telling our own people, don't do anything. Sit on your ass and the government will take care of you. I'm sorry. I can't support that. And that's the breakdown. That breaks down our communities. That breaks down our families. That breaks down the infrastructure. And now we're bringing in a new problem on top of that. So we have to, in cutting off the illegal aliens and telling those very same people that we told the government's going to take care of you cradle to grave. No, get up, be self-accountable. You have to take care of yourself. I don't mind helping people temporarily to get them on their feet.
Yeah, people do fall down, right?
People fall down. I will help them get back up. I got no problem. Help you get back up. I've been homeless myself. Talked about it many times. I don't mind helping someone get back up. I'm not against every single illegal alien. Yeah, there's always going to be some, and we can change some of the laws to be a little bit more fair. It's not that we have the worst system as it exists, but what we're doing now is self-destructive. It will only hurt our nation. We are becoming a third world nation doing these things.
Let me do a little bit of admin if I could, as always. Guys, if you're liking this conversation and you actually believe that me and Mike are agreeing on stuff, I mean, it is happening here or there. It's happening. So, yes, you can click that like button. It does matter. Please do it. I get past Mr. Go Rhythm. Algorithm is always trying to hurt me. So let me get past him by clicking that like button. It does matter. If you're watching on Twitter, please retweet this. The more you retweet this, the better off we're going to be. So please retweet it. It does matter. If you retweet it once, retweet it again, because I'm so good looking. Just do that. People will not be upset. They'll be like, that's a good looking man. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good. But not just that. If you want to support the show, you can. Patreon.com. I have not pushed the Patreon link in a while, but I am now. If you want to, throw me $10 a month so I can keep this going, so I can spend less time coming up with, working with defense, attorneys and proving Michael and Jason wrong. I could do less of that. And so please do that if you can. And of course, support the people who are giving you love right now. They're giving you some of their evenings. So please show them the love. Follow Jason on JC Anderson NYC on Twitter. Follow Reks at Logic Reks, and that is with a K, Logic, if you're listening to the podcast. Logic Reks, REKS on Twitter. And of course, Michael at MV Consult on Twitter. So I guess I want to now go to the piece that is bothering me, that goes for the gun piece and the other violence piece. It all comes together, which is self-defense. And here's the issue. Mm-hmm. Michael, you're right. There's a lot of stuff going on. Reks, you're right. A lot of stuff going on. So at what point do I then say, I'm tired. I'm tired of this. I'm not going to handle this anymore. I'm not going to take this anymore. And I'm going to defend myself, and I'm going to do whatever the thing. I feel that is one of the reasons we are seeing more independent people doing violence. I think it's people saying, I'm tired of it, right? That Marine, I don't know what he was doing. I don't. But I could imagine him going, no, not today. I'm just tired of being bullied by homeless people every goddamn day on this subway, and I'm not doing it today. Not to say he was right. I'm not saying you have to kill a guy, right? But to be forward with you, what if he had punched him instead? What if he goes, I'm tired of this, and he punched the guy, and the guy fell down, hit his head, and died? That does happen. That could have happened. Is it different or the same? All I'm saying is I think we're going to have more of this, whether we have gun control or not. I think more shooters, whether we have gun control or not. I think more people driving over people like in Texas, whether we have common sense SUV control or not. I don't think that's going to matter. I think no matter what we do, we are going to see more independent people saying, I'm tired of it. And my worry is, when does it become organized?
Right. I'd like to talk about this a little bit, especially regarding the subway stuff. So since COVID began, I believe there's been 28 subway murders spread over the last 2.5 years. And, the right amount of subway murders per year is 0. And I think we've really forgotten that through all of the stress that society has been through since COVID began. There's plenty of years where there was 0 murders on the subway. And also this normalization of people getting attacked by someone that they don't know, that they haven't spoke with at all, this like random attacks of violence. This is a new thing, and I've been very vocal about advocating for, crime victims, for subway crime victims, for, people like Michelle Go, who got pushed in front of the subway in Times Square. And, every time something like that happened, I was hoping that it was going to be a turning point. A long time ago, at every single one of these stages, whether it was the A train ripper, the guy who gets on the A train and stabs, I think it was like 4 or 5 different homeless people, actually. Some of them were sleeping. I think 2 of them died. Every time something like this happened, I was hoping that would be the turning point, that we would start to say, okay, we have to take public safety a little bit more seriously. We have new problems where the sort of like mental illness and homelessness and crime and violence are colliding. A lot of it does happen on the subway, because in the subway you're trapped in an enclosed space with a person like this for X amount of time, and you can't get away from it, right? This doesn't necessarily, crime happens on the street, but on the street you can walk away or run away, right? It's just a very
scream for help
scenario
on the street,
exactly, right? So over and over again, I've been hoping that one of these incidents would be the turning point where we have an honest conversation about getting dangerous, mentally ill people out of the subway system, getting them the help that they need. And the progressives have really just been fighting me on it, that it's their right to stay and refuse help and do what they want. And that taking that right away from them is more dangerous. So I did a little experiment.
I don't see that, to be forward with you. I don't see that as a logical answer. And I'm libertarian, right? So I want to give someone the widest berth I can possibly give somebody, right? That's where I live, the widest possible. But once you have shown you are a danger to others, that's a victim, right? That's a victim. If you say, I want to sit in the corner on the street with my dog and not go home, I agree. Don't arrest the person, right? I don't like it. I think it's wrong. It's bad for them, but I'm not going to say arrest that person. I start threatening people as they walk by. That's different, right? Now I'm creating a victim. So I'm with you on that one.
So there's also some deeper levels of the same problem when it comes to drug addiction and the deep levels of psychosis that people reach through excessive drug use, right?
Yes.
That they're slowly inducing themselves into psychosis through, fentanyl and, K2 and
even new isolation.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So
even
I did a study recently of how many times I combed MTA's Twitter from last year, and I looked at every time that they said that someone was hit by a train at a train station, and there was 191 cases, right? So
I saw that you
sometimes
tweeted
there
that.
was, yeah, some of it was three in the same day at the same station. This is really, really crazy. And yeah, I think
But
we
the
need
question
to
though is
get
those people being hit by a train. Is that
right.
people being thrown in front of a train? Is that people making a
Mm,
mistake? Is that people who are high and fall onto the tracks, right? I mean, what
right.
is that people committing suicide, right? That we
So
don't know
here,
what that is.
I tried to write about this and unpack it, and it's a very mysterious topic. But
Yep.
here's what I came up with. Suicide rates before and after COVID through New York State are actually pretty steady. It's just the numbers haven't spiked drastically, right? I personally believe that the majority of people who, all right, obviously, if we had cameras in all the train stations, we would
Yep.
really know who gets pushed and who wanders in front of a train unknowingly because they're high on
So you're
fentanyl or
asking the
K2 or
libertarian to
something like
support cameras in every station.
that. Not necessarily, but it
Not
would
sure I'm gonna go with
solve
you on that one.
it would solve the mysteries about what happens in our massive train infrastructure, right? I have a friend who lives out in Flatbush who told me a story about how his neighbor was hit by a train. His station doesn't have any cameras, and that he knew the guy his whole life, that he dressed up for work that day, that he did not seem suicidal, that he was not on drugs, that he has no history of being crazy. And
That is weird.
he believes that he was pushed and that no one knows the truth. So
That's
I
a
thought
terrible
that
story.
I thought it was an important thing to note because we're so used to these stories about
Well,
people
maybe
getting
if we
pushed.
just have the cameras at the one front part, like where the train is, maybe we'll do that. Like dash cams in a train or something. Maybe we'll do that. I don't know.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Rex.
maybe I'm
Rex,
okay.
No, you got Josh.
there's something I obviously I've got stuff, but I want to hear Rex. I want to hear what you have to say before I take this on.
Alluding to the cameras, since I do work in security, I've been in security for 9 years. It's like, I guess speaking to merit or my resume, armed security as well, executive protection, short of going overseas with like military contract work. I'm currently a supervisor, so it's like I run my own shift. I would say cameras, it provides the illusion of security. Quite often, sometimes you have cameras that are fake. They're not even recording. They're just there to kind of as a deterrence. But that's where I would say security-wise is a proactive measure as policing is a reactive measure. So if we do have more security, I would say that's a positive. But I do want to say New York City's answer is to get a robot and the DigiDogs and put that out there as that's gonna help. I don't see that helping, especially when people are all masked up. After all the lockdowns, people want to wear masks, and even the criminals now are using that to get under the radar. I think we even seen the stores. The stores are putting up signs, no admittance if you got a mask. Now the businesses want you to take the mask off if you're going inside.
Yes.
Even in the subway, it's like when crime, government is giving this nasty or negative tone or name to the word vigilante, like it's a negative. I kind of don't even see it as a negative to a certain extent, because I kind of want to see that pushback. If there's a violent offender, I don't want to see like an escalation, but I do want to see a group of people attempt to de-escalate the situation, something that I've been trained in. And to some extent, I don't think enough police officers, especially the NYPD, employ that tool of de-escalation. Quite often we see these cops are so quick to resort to escalation, screaming and yelling, hyping the situation up instead of calming it down, which it's causing a schism between policing and the community as well. So if you had community or that culture where police and community citizens work together to keep the criminals or the violent people accountable, that probably work a little bit better than just.
No, I think it's the idea of actually making the target not a soft target, right? So that people change and shift and decide that I don't want to do that because it's a harder target. I actually am a proponent, and you know this. I mean, it's not going to happen in New York City, but I think more people should be armed. I think if I was governor, literally, I'm telling you what I would have actually done. once that gentleman stabbed that guy who came at him, I would have called up Bragg and I would have said, he gets released in 6 hours or you will be in his cell. That's what I say. He's released in 6 hours or you will be in his cell. He's pardoned. Done. That's it. When I would have said it, I would have said the pardon part publicly. I wouldn't have said that Bragg's going to jail part publicly. That would have been over the phone. But I would have publicly said, he's pardoned. You are allowed to defend yourself in New York State. Just that statement would change New York State if a governor actually said that. Just said it. Right. Didn't have to do anything. One pardon, one statement would change New York State. And what would that be? Wait a minute. I can't just go in and start beating people up. No, you can't, because the governor is going to pardon you. So maybe you don't want to do that. I'm sorry, Michael. You're chomping the bit. Go ahead.
That's all right. No. I wanted everyone to have their chance because this is very important, and we don't have this discussion enough. Thank you, Larry, for giving us a chance to have this discussion, because we should. I'm a little bit older than most of the guys here, and lady, excuse me, for everyone who's here with us. And I want to be very clear. This isn't new. We've been here before. It's called Bernard Goetz. It's the 1970s, early 1980s of crime. New York City's already gone through this. So has LA and Chicago and most of these other states. So it's not a new thing. And what was the answer then? Bernard Goetz, kind of like the Marine, is the figurehead, that moment where everyone looks at it and says, this problem is out of control. How do we get this back in control? We're never going to get rid of all the crime. We're never going to get rid of all the crazies or anything like that, gangs or anything else. So let's think about this. What did we do then? We increased the number of police. We increased the amount of training. We made people more aware, and people defended themselves more. The criminals were were scared because people were justified in many cases. We looked at the cases, and when people were justified, we publicly said, defending yourself is
But hold on.
fair.
There's one thing, though, Michael, that you didn't miss. And I was around that time, too, brother. I was there, too.
Yeah, I know.
You remember, there was, though, a cultural issue. That's when they had, Charles Bronson. He's going to take Dirty Harry, right? Yeah. All the guys who were going to vengeance this and kill that guy. And we're going to go on the streets and kill the bad guys. So culture was with us then. Culture's not with us now. Culture was with us then.
Yes, but culture is changing because woke fails. Woke gets you broke. We see it with Disney. We see it with Marvel. We see it with DC. We are seeing this all across. The more woke you get, whether it's M&Ms or it's a movie or rappers on TV, which I hate, all of these people, they are failing. Why? Because the public isn't buying into this, because it doesn't work. It's not advantageous. It's a means of control, and people don't want to be controlled. Now, you know what's one of the best ways we can help this situation right now? I have advocated this forever, and I think you'll agree with me, Larry. I think you'll agree with me, Reks. I'm not sure, Jason. You might, you may not. What I would like to see is that New York State and every state, this should be a national thing. Every woman in high school and in college must take a course on self-defense with a firearm. They must be qualified to be able to conceal carry. Whether or not they choose to do so, they have been trained to be able to carry and use a firearm, and that is going to be publicized. And the number of women graduating who have been qualified to be able to be conceal carry is going to be publicized. Yes, we have 5,000 women who now are able to conceal carry because of the graduation in the Bronx.
Michael, okay, I love this idea. I do. I do.
That's one factor.
There's two parts here. Yeah. Number one, it's got to be voluntary. No rules. Got to be voluntary. And
I didn't say anyone.
You could get extra credits to your high school if you choose to do it. So that kind of thing I'm good with. I think women will do it if you just give them a little bit of incentive to do it without you having to force them. Because there are some people in this country who are utter pacifists and would never want to even touch or think about a gun. So I want to respect those few people. Most will do that anyway. But second piece, though, that's not where this country is at all. This country is going opposite direction.
No. AOC, no, that's not true. You got the squad that's not in that direction. AOC, Anna Presley, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman. Yeah, they're not there. They're the progressives. They represent 7% of the Democrats. Forget about the nation. They're about 2% of the population. They don't like it. Hollywood doesn't like it. I don't care what they like.
You know who's talking about gun control now? Republicans are talking about gun control now, dude.
No, they're capitulating. You're talking about red flag laws, totally different thing. And I can't stand red flag laws. And you know I can't stand. You know what I've talked about. Not the same thing. But let me finish this.
You live in Michael, I love you live in a fantasy world. You think people are going to start saying let's have high school girls? Again, I love the idea. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying it's impossible. You might as well say
I don't think
have
it's
all
impossible.
girls in high school go and take a trip to the moon every week. This is the same thing.
We're going to get to this point. Either I'm advocating it, maybe it's going to take someone bigger to advocate it, but I guarantee you within the next 7 years, we're going to be there because we have to be there. Right. We have to,
right.
Because in following this wokest ideology, this intersectionality, this basically defenseless idea. We're making people defenseless and they're 100%. Being attacked. There is a limit to that. And rather than having the explosion, which would be vigilantism, which isn't what happened in the subway.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. If we continue this way and don't give an outlet, give people an option, then we will get to that. That wasn't what happened with Penny, the Marine, in the subway. He wasn't a vigilante. He was self-defense. He was defending himself and others. And it was just incidental that the man died. They weren't trying to do that. And it wasn't just the white man. Notice they always fixate on, he's a white Marine. What about the black guy that was holding down Jordan Neely in every single shot of the video? You know, they want to ignore that. Right. But we have to.
Anyway, you got some fans today, Mike. I got some. Hold on, I'm gonna give you a couple things here. Ryan says, "I love your idea, Michael Vasquez." So you got some friends here.
Yeah, Grace Roger isn't one of them.
Vass is on fire tonight, so you got a couple fans. That's good. You got some. You got Roger not happy with you. Roger don't like you.
Roger's not happy with me. But that's okay.
Roger don't like you. Yeah,
that's okay.
Roger don't like you. Yes.
Between Roger
Marcus
and
is
you,
here too. Marcus is talking about your thing. No sound bites allowed with Michael Vasquez. That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
So you got some fans too. You got some people who are not happy with you either.
But that's okay. That keeps me in check. And that's a good thing. But I truly believe that we need to reconfirm that people have a right to the Second Amendment. That does give you the right. And someone mentioned you can't get a nuke. Yes, you can. It's called Title I Federal Firearms License after the National Firearms Act of 1934. Yes, you can. You can own an F-16. You can own a tank. People do. There's in New York State right now 19,000 machine guns. So you can. And if we are promoting self-defense, reasonable self-defense, armed self-defense, criminals will reduce because they are afraid. They are not being glorified. Let's get rid of some of that rap. Let's get rid of some of that glorification in the movies, in TV, in the entertainment. Let's remind people that crime isn't a good thing. It isn't an option in life, and you will be countered.
Well, we got to. You're right, my point. You got to get the culture with us. I'm with you. Let me grab a couple comments. If I could.
Go ahead.
Roger says, no, the left sees the military-industrial complex, the Pentagon and CIA as evil, which uses soldiers as fodder to conduct ops to overthrow other governments who don't go along with U.S. hegemony corporate interests. Hey, he's not wrong. That's accurate. That's pretty accurate. He's right. That's true. That's accurate. He's got me on that one. Yes, Roger. Correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You guys may disagree, but he's totally right on that one. So yes. Sam says, the WHO just claimed and ends the pandemic emergency last week. I guess he means the World Health Organization. A mere 3 years and 2 months to slow the spread. So it wasn't just 2 weeks? Sam, what happened? Wait a minute. Were they lying to us? I think they were lying to us. My God. I thought it was good. Joe says Miami is blue. Joe, I agree. Miami is blue. It's just the reddest of the blue cities. That's what I was trying to say. But yeah, there's no doubt. Almost all the cities are blue. It's tough to find a red city. You have to struggle. But of the larger cities, I think it is the reddest of the blue, if that makes any sense. That's what I would think. Sam goes on to say, New York lost a lot of opportunities in crypto. Pretty sure we can get certain exchanges and coins. I agree completely. We dropped the ball on crypto completely. We should have been the crypto center, but we blew it. We dropped the ball. Now it's going to places, and it was silly. And We should have literally built a nuclear power plant upstate New York to run crypto mining. That would have been a brilliant idea. And I talked about it in 2018, and nobody talked about it. Best idea. Reks, you on top of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think they did the opposite with Indian Point. They shut Indian Point down.
They did the opposite.
The opposite of what they should do. But I did want to bring in with vigilantism, whatever happened to citizen's arrest. That used to be a thing.
Ooh.
Citizens used to be able to do that. Like a citizen's arrest. You used to be able to detain somebody and hold them till the police arrive. But even that's been stigmatized or even forgotten about. I can't remember the last time I've heard any story or case of an actual citizen's arrest. But I did want to bring another kind of log into the fire caveat. With women owning firearms, I would say I kind of want to bring in another caveat here. Politics with the government and who's kind of owning the narrative concerning the LGBT. And concerning so with the feminist structure and firearm self-defense, if you're a self-proclaimed feminist, wouldn't you be for the Second Amendment for women to own firearms?
Absolutely.
But they're not.
I did want to say though, because I hope I'm not misleading any. I'm not a female, in case that wasn't obvious enough. So just wanted to throw that out there.
You're beautiful for yourself. Don't worry about anyone else.
100%.
Yeah, but I still keep to biological facts, and I think that's another kind of woke section where like culture has kind of split apart, another divide, if you will, which also ties into feminism and arguably, I would say the Second Amendment as well, because we've seen increasing violence coming from a kind of minor sect of the LGBT. Kind of in I think it's more in Florida, or a recent rally that was held where crime in general or violence in general is picking up, and you don't see much being done about it.
This is a big problem you bring up, Reks, and the problem is now the rhetoric is words are violence, right? And if that rhetoric is accepted as true, then I can retaliate with violence, right? If I'm going to accept that words are, I don't, but I'm saying in theory, right? If we are going to accept that words are violence, if I misgender someone, that is now violence. If I call someone by their previous name, that is now violence. If I accept that as true, well then, isn't it right for me to respond with violence? And I think that's the biggest issue, right? You just said something which is amazing. You said, I'm a biological male. Well, you didn't get mad. You didn't yell at Michael. You said, hey, this is how I want to be addressed. Okay. And Michael's like, fine, I'll address you any way you like. Just tell me, I'll address you whatever you want.
I don't dictate pronouns. I'm, unabashedly libertarian.
But my point is,
call me whatever you want.
Michael and I'm sure Jason, all will address you as you want to be addressed. And you could have been angry and got mad and go, Michael, you're a jerk. You're a bad guy. I mean, Michael is a jerk and a bad guy. That's true. But you didn't have to, but you didn't call him that. Let's just say it. You didn't call him that. So it's fine. So yes. But once we go to words are violence, then they have a right to retaliate with violence. We have to stop that piece, that idea. Words are not violence unless those words are literally calling for violence.
Well,
if they aren't literally calling for violence, they're not.
We have to understand, why are they saying words are violence? Because it is a means to shut people up. Because people don't want to have conflict. They don't want to be engaged in conflict, especially if it can escalate to physical violence. It is a means of control. And that's why we must. See, here's the thing. Reks is a human being. I respect Reks as a human being who's having a conversation with me, sometimes agreeing, sometimes disagreeing, just like everyone else on this panel. I have no problem with that. Live your life. You're a grown adult. Do what you do. Are you harming anyone? No, I don't care. Do what you want. That's a Republican point of view. That's a libertarian point of view. That's an American point of view. Live your life. Now, the politics, the political movement that is subverting, I believe, subverting LGBTQAI plus people who call themselves toasters or anything else.
No. The easiest way of doing it, hold on, I'm going to say this, is GSM. GSM is the easiest. Gender and sexual minorities. The simplest way. You don't have to have any of the LBG, none of it. GSM community. Gender and sexual minorities. It is many libertarians use that phrase. It's just so much easier. GSM community.
Okay, fair enough. And But we have too many acronyms. And that's the reason
Yes,
we have that is
easier one.
because it's about dividing people. It's about finding areas of conflict. And now we're saying that if you have an area of conflict, if you disagree with me at all, then that's violence. So I can attack you unless you stay quiet and you obey. And that's the problem. We should have these conversations. We should all be passionate about our positions. We should be able to argue them absolutely tooth and nail. You and me, Larry, we've done it, especially privately. We go into it, and it's not a matter of hate or violence. It's a matter of, okay, I have passionate views. Let's explain our positions. Let's have that discussion.
Agreed.
And then we either agree or we don't, and we move on. We used to have that in this nation. We don't have that anymore because people want.
Because words have become violence. That's the issue. Words have become violence in rhetoric, and that's just not the answer, right? Karen says, feminism in the late 90s told me that working a family business while raising my children myself at home was career failure. Ooh, and subservient culture.
Mm-hmm.
2 out of 3 of my now grown children have amazing careers here. And I just bought my first Maserati. Oh, the left is lying to you. That is amazing. I love that. Yes. No, what I would say feminism actually should be is any woman doing what she sees as right for her life. If she thinks that staying home is the right answer, awesome. She wants to go to work, awesome. She wants to do both, awesome. Whatever is what she wants to do, she should never feel she has to. She should feel this is what I want to do and I want to do it. I think it's literally that simple. Am I off here?
It always was. That always was. It's an American thing. We have freedom of choice. You have the right to pursue happiness, life, and liberty. Anyone who's telling you you can't do this because they have a feeling or they have a desire does not obligate anyone else to take any other action. And our media and elected officials like AOC, Cori Bush, Anya Presley, Jamal Bowman. There's a few others. I can keep going down the list.
I can't tell what side of the aisle you're on, Michael, at all.
Hey, I'm honest about it. It's not, and no one has to be forced to accept my position because I'm black and Hispanic or a man or straight or anything else. I'm an American. These are my views. And their views are no more important. Their feelings are no more important than anyone else's. Why do we assign it as such?
Let me go to a couple more comments if I could. Roger's back on. He says, the black community especially gets hurt by these migrants the most. Going back to the military who conduct coups in other countries, destabilizing the governments, creating a hellscape where they come here. This part is a very valid piece. What he's saying is somebody's upset honking their horn.
Yeah, not me.
In any
It's
case,
me. I'm in Manhattan.
Yep. I understand. In any case, but he's got a valid point here, which is if we spend our time destabilizing countries, we do increase the idea of migrants coming in. That's an accurate statement. I wish we would spend a whole lot less time doing that. I completely agree. He's on the money on that one. And the other thing he's right about too is I don't know if that's true now or not, to be forward, when it comes to migrants. Does the black community want to be doing the jobs that migrants are doing? I'm not sure, unless you're saying, Roger, that they're lowering the minimum wage basically by lowering wages for working for less. Maybe he means that. I'm not sure where you're going with that one, Roger. Are you saying that many people in the black community would be doing the jobs that migrants are doing? Or are you saying that they're hurt because they're lowering the wages because they'll do it for less? I'm not sure where you're going on that. But the first part I agree completely.
Excuse me.
Michael, you shaking your head? No, you're not saying you don't believe we're blowing up people in other countries and creating migrants?
Hang on a second. One, I laughed in the middle of your conversation because Roger made a very funny comment about the beeping saying it was me. So that's why I laughed. It's a funny comment.
That's
I love that, Roger.
He did. He put that's me outside beeping at Vasquez.
Right.
Nicely done, Roger. Nicely done.
As soon as I saw that, I started laughing. So I wasn't laughing about what you were saying. So I want to make it clear.
Michael, look, he's beeping at you now.
Yeah. But here's my thing. When we have a weak government, Biden is weak. Kamala Harris is weak. Matter of fact, Kamala Harris is worse than weak. She is counterproductive. Everywhere she has gone, she's made things worse. God help us. Stop her from doing anything. Okay? Just stop her. But Biden is weak. And because of that weakness, we are seeing destabilization around the world. Whenever we have weak governments with bad administrations where we don't have an explicit plan, the world goes to hell in a handbasket. What do we see? We ran away from Afghanistan, leaving them weapons and leaving 5,000 Americans in Afghanistan. Russia went into Ukraine. Then before they went in, we knew they were going in. Biden goes on national TV, tells America there's 10,000 Americans, including children, in Ukraine. They're on their own. Sudan, 15,000 Americans are on their own. When
you
we're
too Republican. No. Now you're playing too Republican.
These are facts.
Who left those people there too? Trump left them there too. Obama left them there.
No, we were
Bush
fighting. We were still there. We were there.
Obama left them there.
No.
Trump didn't start any new wars, so I'll give Trump that. He didn't start any wars. That's a good thing. He didn't start any new.
Yes, it is.
So I'll give him that. Obama was the bomber in chief. We should have known it was in the name.
Was.
Obama. We should have known that. That's our fault for that one.
The drone king.
Yes, the drone king. And best part, actually won a Nobel Prize for bombing 8 countries. Now that's skill. I'm going to give that man skill on that one. That's amazing.
You left out the fact
8
that
countries get Nobel Peace Prize. Damn.
You left out the fact that he's able to kill. Under Obama, he decided and wrote this document. He wrote a executive order to kill Americans overseas without a trial with those very same drones. He was sick. But let's understand.
But just don't blame just the Democrats for this one.
I'm not blaming that. I didn't say no. We currently have a Democrat and he's weak. So I'm using him as the example. But I said any weak administration leads to destabilization, which is a long-term issue. It doesn't go away with the next administration. It takes a while to correct. We need multiple strong presidents to correct one weak president. And so what we're seeing, and I'm not saying that we're always right and going into all the countries around the world.
Or there's another choice. We could just leave them all alone.
Can't.
We could just leave them alone and just do one thing only. And one thing only that I think that some libertarians don't even want to do. But this one I would do. And libertarians are going to be mad at me if I say this. We could just patrol the trade routes.
Nope.
We could just do that.
No.
We could just patrol trade routes with a nice navy that patrol to keep the pirates out, and let's just trade with everybody because we're the only ones who have a deep sea navy that could actually patrol trade routes like no other navy could really do it. So we patrol the trade routes. Maybe we get a cut. I'm just saying, like a little mob. We get a cut like the mob. You go, it's a nice trade route you got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. So maybe we do a little bit of that, and we're good. I'm okay with that. Otherwise, we could just walk away and let people defend themselves.
No, we can't.
We could do that.
No, we can't. We're the superpower of the world. We are the leader of the world. And if we were a secondary nation, if we were France, then I'd agree with you.
Ooh,
but we're not.
The Frenchies.
Well, the French lose at everything. They're failures and they want to go over with China. So I have no problem telling Macron what he can do with himself. Look, and I follow the international a lot. But here's the reality. We are, whether we like it or not, and I don't like it, we are the superpower of the world. We're the leader of, at the moment, we're the leader of the world, and we were guiding politics when we have strong leaders. When we have weak leaders, everything goes and gets crazy. And we're losing our position because of weak leadership to China. And they are making many strides forward. And that's a problem.
True.
As long as we are the leader of the world, we are the superpower of the world. With power comes responsibility. We knew that from Spider-Man.
Let's get rid of both.
I want to be the superpower of the world. I like the quality of life.
I want to be the super trader of the world. That's what I want to be. I want to be the super trader of the world.
We can't have one without the other.
We did our best when we were trading with the whole world. When they were all at war and we were sending them a bunch of, you need some guns? We got those. You need some bullets? We got those too. Oh, you hate those guys next to you? Us too. Here's some bullets. We were great when that was happening. Let's keep doing that. And then eventually they learned, wait a minute. We keep fighting each other and the Americans keep making cash. Maybe we should stop fighting each other. Yeah. We'll give you refrigerators. It's fine. We don't mind that. We'll send you some cars, whatever you want. In fact, now that you've blown your cities up, we'll help you. We'll send you some steel. You can rebuild your cities. Life is good.
We all got to come back.
That is the home run for us.
Guys, we all got to come back just to talk about the international stuff because that's a whole thing all its own. But
all right, so let me, if I could, real fast, take a couple things if I could. Juan says, Reks is a great point about how the left has weaponized the culture.
Mm-hmm.
For years, I was treated as an LGBT ally until I stated opposition to drag shows in schools and trans women playing in women's sports.
Can't do that.
It's a valid point, right? Can't you still be an ally if you disagree with one or both of these? I feel like you can.
Yeah.
But I think there are some people, to Juan's point, no, you must agree on every single thing or you are an enemy. Versus
if you
going,
make one infraction.
Yes.
One
infraction
single
and
infraction.
now you're an enemy.
Yeah.
I think it's terrible. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. Cameron brings up the idea, no, before 1974, women couldn't even have a mortgage or savings account without a husband. That's real feminism. This new shit has been hijacked by extremists. So what I would say is that's been the American way since 1974. How about that? I'll say that. I'll give you a little tidbit. People don't realize how conservative Switzerland was. Women didn't get the right to vote in Switzerland nationally until the 1970s. Interesting tidbit. That is a European country that women could not vote nationally. They could vote locally in certain places. They couldn't vote nationally to the 1970s. Interesting tidbit. So yes. And Scott says hubris. I'm with them, Michael. You got some enemies on that America's top of the world thing. You got some people. You were doing good. Then you started telling America's running stuff. And they were like, no, you're losing us.
It's a fact. We are. It's a fact that we are the superpower of the world. We're losing that position. And when we lose that, you got to understand the consequences that go along with that. That means that we become a third world nation. The only thing that's, because we're a superpower, the dollar is worth money, and that is what's keeping us afloat. When we lose that superpower status, we lose the dollar, and with 131 million, 131 trillion unfunded liabilities, we become instantly a banana republic.
Well,
you don't want to lose this.
Valid point on that one. The only thing is we no longer have our fiat currency is based on literally Marines will invade you if you don't take our money. That's basically what our money's based on. So with that being what our money's based on, I think the only way we can fix that is if we actually trade so much that the dollar makes the most sense. That's the only way we can do it, right? Otherwise, I think you're right. We're going to have to try to maintain this petrodollar thing, which I can't see us maintaining it. I can't see it working. I think we're fighting a losing battle, Michael. I think that's my issue. I think we can't win. And just because we're not a first tier, we can still be of the first tier. I mean, look, America's still, if we get our government straight, and we haven't right now, we can go back to be the innovators that we have been. The one thing America has been awesome, and this is since 1776, we have been the innovators throughout, better than anybody. That today is no longer true. Today, other countries are innovating better than we are. That is my bigger worry. If we go back to innovating, the rest is fine. I need people to be coming to us to think. And I remember something, if you remember this, it's going to sound dumb, but it hit me. Do you remember the movie Independence Day with the slapper Will Smith? So in that movie at the end, if you remember, the Americans figure out how to take down the big ships, right? And they go and it's like the French or the Israelis like, we're the Americans, about time. Like they expected us to figure it out. Like they did. That movie was in the 90s though. They of course, if anyone's going to figure this out, it's the Americans because they're the most innovative. They're going to figure out how to take care of the aliens. I think we're losing that. That is my bigger issue. I'm more worried about that.
Let me ask. I've had Reks on my side for most of this, but I think I might have lost her a little bit. Jason's been kind of back and forth going, I'm not sure about that Mike guy, but how about this? Let's taking your understanding. The reason why we're losing the lead of the world is also the reason why we have the problem in New York City with the subway and with homelessness. And that is because the more that we have the government involved and intruding in our lives, the less innovation we can have, because we have less freedom. We need smaller government, less government involved, more individuals being able to defend themselves. And when the government does intrude, it should always be on our side to defend our liberties and our rights and freedoms, not to follow a political ideology of a minority splinter organization. That's the problem. And I think everyone will agree with me on that.
I'd like to jump in on this.
Yeah.
I was listening to I think it was Douglas Murray, the author from the UK. He's now here and does some stuff for the New York Post. He's a wonderful writer.
Yep.
And he said the other day that every child is smart enough to take a bicycle apart, but a very small few of them are smart enough to put a bicycle together. And I think this is really important when you sort of scale this thinking up to our most far left politicians, right? We have this trend of electing people, such as AOC and people that are very like-minded to her, Jamal Bowman and stuff like that. And their main skill set is just saying everything is broken. But these are not the type of people who put together bills that get passed, communities that improve. They're not doing it.
I think you're totally right. And the piece I want to bring up with this piece is, so go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, if we're putting people like that in charge of everything, we're going to get less of that innovation that you were talking about before.
But we're also not working together, right? And this is a bigger issue because generally speaking, there's an old saying which I agree with. You want to know what's wrong with America? Ask a Democrat. You want to know what's right with America? Ask a Republican, right? Yeah. And they'll tell you that's almost always true. The problem is if you have Democrats who will tell you what's wrong with America and often be right, they're actually very easy to able to. This is a problem. They're often true. Got it. But then their answer is terrible. Their answer makes things worse. Their answer is a disaster. Republicans in today's world don't even want to have an answer. They just go, no, here's what's good about America. And they say nothing. So what do you wind up happening? You have a Republican Party that has no ideas and a Democratic Party that has bad ideas. Well, now when you have a desperate population and they go, I want something. Well, Democrats have an idea. Oh, but it's terrible. But it's an idea. And you find more people walking towards Democrats because of that, because they have ideas. I'm trying to say there are better ideas. Listen to the Democrats when I say there's a problem, because they're usually right. Not always, but they're usually right as a problem. Okay, I get it. You're correct. But how about you let me give you an idea how to fix it? And we're not doing that well at all. What we're doing is going, Democrats bad, Republicans bad, everybody bad. And now our victory isn't my life getting better. My victory is I beat the other. That's my win. I beat the other, so I won, versus my life got better.
I'd like to give you a very specific example about like what you just said, and in a situation I watched play out in New York City in the last year and a half. So going back to the conversion of buildings from office buildings into residential buildings, right? People from the city council said, you know what? Maybe it's time we explore this idea of converting these buildings. I'm going to put a team together to make some studies, and we'll talk about it once I get my studies back. Had that person just reached out to someone like me or any real estate professional, there's thousands of them in New York City, they could have told that city council member in 1 minute, these numbers don't pencil out and all the rents are going to go up, and here's why. Because there's thousands of experts who could have answered that question in under a minute. But the way the city council approached it is, I'm going to spend thousands of dollars hiring a team from some nonprofit to spend a year doing studies for this thing because I don't want to listen to you.
No.
Really, because you're not on my team.
No.
Go on.
I got to tell you, it's not true. They did it not because they don't want to listen, because now they're able to give jobs to people. Now those people owe them. Right. What New York does better than most. And I got to tell you, Kathy Hochul's better than Cuomo at this. I am surprised, but I will give her credit. When it comes to giving out jobs to friends, Kathy Hochul's better than Cuomo. She is really good at that. And so she's always going to find a reason to give her friends a job. She creates entire new offices to give her friends and their family jobs. I'm not joking. I mean, you know this, Jason. You follow this. She'll make an entire office. It's the office of people named Reks. That's the new office, and we gotta
Greatest
have
office ever.
Yeah.
we got the best office ever.
It's like
and we gotta have 5 people in it, and it's gonna have a $10 million budget. And now I gave 5 people who happen to all give me money for my campaign. They all have jobs. Isn't that amazing? She's great.
The mayor does it too. He does like
yes,
the rat czar and the gun violence czar and the salad bar czar. I mean, there's
absolutely.
Yes. Going to be the AI czar.
One thing I'll give Adams on this one. Adams is more open about it.
Yeah.
He is. He's like, no. I'm giving my sister a job. I don't care. He's like that. So he's a little bit better.
A little bit. I hesitate to kick him frequently because I'm terrified of the other options that are, that who's going to come after him and how much worse they can be. And also, I was terrified of Maya Wiley possibly becoming mayor, and she performed very well, and she's a complete lunatic. So with all of Eric Adams' mistakes and the things that he's failing at, I'd like to say that the city council is blocking him on most of his initiatives. They want him to fail, and they're coalescing behind Brad Lander to replace him as soon as possible. And no one's saying it out loud, but it's true. It's exactly what's happening. So they're working against him on everything. Albany's working against him on everything, and this is why I'm not very critical of him.
Well, we're gonna wrap this part up on you saying that you think Eric Adams is a good mayor. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Yes, guys, if you like this show, please click that like button. It does matter tremendously. If you're watching it on Twitter, please retweet this. It really does matter. I know I bug you every 5 minutes because it matters. That's why I do it. With Super Chat if you want to, Larry Sharpe, YouTube if you want to. But more importantly, these 3 people gave us a lot of their time, and I appreciate it. So please give them love in return. Follow them on Twitter. Head on over to JC Anderson NYC on Twitter and follow him. Also, follow Reks at Logic Reks and follow Michael at MB Consult, all on Twitter. Follow them, see what they're doing. Show them some love. They showed you some love. Please do that. Guys, before I wrap this up, anything we got to say before I wrap this up?
I love you all. Thank you for the conversation. Even when you disagree, I love it.
There we go. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. I will be back on tomorrow. I'm back on tomorrow for my radio show, 1 p.m., coming out of WYSL Rochester, New York, Western New York show. And I will also be on again tomorrow at 7 p.m. too. So 2 shows tomorrow. I hope I will see you all very soon.